I'm looking at a newspaper. It's been in my truck for about 3 years. It is the August 2011 edition of the Portland Mercury. That time in 2011, I gave some thought to what it would be like to run for city council and the issues that I would bring to the table, that I would present before the people of Portland, Oregon. Issues that I think are very, very important to secure the safety and freedom of future generations of Portlanders as well as current ones. Obviously, I left in 2011, went to Texas, went to Colorado, but I kept Portland in my heart all this time. Now I'm back in the Portland area, even though I'm in Washington right now. But upon finding this newspaper, I realized that I never made a video, ever, where I talked about some of the things that I wrote down. And each one of these topics needs so much more time to talk about the issues even more in depth. Much more detailed conversation could follow this video on some of these points that I've made. And I think these are things that we need to look at very seriously if we care about the future generations, and we're not just all about now and the moment, because there is an effect for every cause. So some of the things that I've scribbled down here, I'm actually just going to go from one end of the spectrum to the other. The first thing is probably one of the biggest things. If this country was ever occupied by a foreign army or was ever under siege from a criminal group, maybe engaged in human trafficking, things of that nature, if the system was broken, there would need to be some sort of plan in place that involved the community. You're going to hear the word community come up over and over and over again. Community policing, some sort of civilian defense plan, if you will. If there was no 911 and there was a sense of danger in the streets, how would the city of Portland prepare to meet those threats? If they were preparedness mindset, of a mindset of being prepared and being realistic about the challenges we could be facing, we would have something like a civilian defense plan that did not include the military, that did not include the National Guard, that specifically included Portlanders that live in Portland, that aren't going overseas and aren't getting involved in other things, but they live in Portland. So that would be one thing as mayor, as a member of the city council that I would propose. There's other things that deal with larger projects, and there's a lot of people in Portland that aren't working right now. Maybe some of these people that aren't working might want to get involved in a community-oriented project that deals with being realistic about the things that we need right now. How about cutting out our need for oil in the event of a solar flare or major emergency? How about the Grand Bike Project, building large-scale bikes where 20 people are on each bike and they can actually truck something from one end of the city to the other, or maybe to a neighboring city. Maybe some sort of transportation system set up to where we don't need oil, where, oh, it's a bike city, why not let's bike the silo from Forest Grove full of fruit and vegetables or other things to the Portland area. Now Seattle recently has created an area where I believe is going to be one large garden, and I've always felt that Portland should have a large garden specifically designed to feed the city. In addition, drug-free tent cities. There are so many different types of homeless out there, and some of them have severe mental and drug issues. Some do not. Those that don't, it's really tough to hang around those that are not stable psychologically. It's extremely challenging and difficult. So drug-free tent cities, I think, would be highly recommended for quite a few people moving along. Soup kitchens and restaurant credits. I'm not sure everything that I meant when I scribbled down these things, but the word credit does come to mind. There's a few other things here that I want to mention. So in terms of other things, we have financial reform. There's a lot of money that's going into projects. This has happened traditionally in the past. Sam Adams has rerouted millions of dollars to bike lanes, the former mayor of Portland, Sam Adams. And I really wonder if some of that money was actually laundered. Not just money that's been revamped to certain areas, but money that basically disappeared. And so I think that there needs to be a certain amount of financial reform within the city of Portland itself. And I don't know if that would ever happen, but that would be something that I see as a major issue that needs to be addressed. Moving along, local currency, community policing, I touched upon that earlier. A large community garden, I mentioned that. Community building projects, community schooling, and there are many other things that involve community. Another idea that I've thought of for years is some sort of a program that turns sewage into energy. We know how polluted the Willamette River is, and I think that may have an energetic effect on the people. There's a lot of suffering people in Portland, a lot of drug addiction, a lot of social ills, but that's a very polluted Willamette River. Could there be a connection? See, I don't think that the city is all that progressive in terms of where our poop goes at all whatsoever. I think it's just a lot of ego stroking and hand jobs at City Hall with the wannabe green-friendly individuals that unfortunately are in charge right now. I think that we need to have some sort of a massive program that would turn some of that sewage into energy. Not sewage that's recycled back in the water supply, not that fucking bullshit. And that shit does go on, but sewage that actually gets converted into energy. There needs to be some amendment to legalize hemp, so hemp is grown in the city of Portland, regardless of what the state says, regardless of the federal government. And there could be other amendments to legalize other things, but hemp, that's fundamental, because hemp doesn't get you high. So any so-called progressive city should make certain amendments that they push forward to the state, saying, hey, this is a city full of people with certain values. We want to do this. Community textile or clothing company. We see these supposed executive orders from the President Obama, the great jobs in this sector and great jobs in that sector. And it creates this illusion that things are getting better, when in reality they're social engineering our society to accepting those jobs in the military or for the government. But one positive use of an executive order could be creating a community textile clothing center where people in Portland, specifically people that are out of work, could be manufacturing things that are bought and sold in the community. There's been a movement to rezone Portland and recode Portland for people that want to be more self-sufficient, have chickens on their property, not get fucked with by the city, ticketed by agents of the Matrix, agents of the city, employees of the city of Portland, the city that works. We're like the city that tickets you, that tows your car, city that sleeps, city that crawls. We're going to be revolutionary in our thinking and our consciousness, evolutionary rather. We need to recode and rezone Portland on a whole lot of levels and areas. Community Arts Center, Community Self-Sufficient Center, Community Health Center, Community Credit Center, Community Grocery Stores, true community grocery stores. Some of these co-ops, they're a little expensive. Some of the stuff that they sell is a little bit outside the reach of the average person. We understand that there's certain expenses that need to be taken care of for rent to be paid, but co-ops for the most part sell food that is not all that affordable. So some sort of community grocery store or other centers where the rent is affordable, where there's more available space in the city of Portland for some of these positive projects. And that would require a little less privatization of certain things, a restructuring of some of the land use laws. And there's a lot of land out there in buildings that aren't really being used right now. And I believe in property rights, but I also think that all space should be used at this time. So, I really don't know what the solution is, but these are all things that should be further investigated. Could the community investigate further free energy projects that would help the city be more independent? Of course, PGE wouldn't allow that, the local conglomerate that has control over the energy supply. So all these issues need to be addressed, including the issue of our energy, how much it costs, and who has the monopoly on it. Should monopolies be allowed in the city of Portland to companies like Portland General Electric? So the issues with corruption, with so many other things in Portland, are internal problems. They aren't necessarily external problems. So as anyone running for city council, in my eyes, if they really care about the people, there needs to be an overhaul of some of the traditions in Portland that have kept the people under control and kept the rich even richer on a local level. Forget what you're seeing with Wall Street. Forget what you're seeing in Washington, D.C. These are all issues that need to be addressed locally. Because ultimately life is about happiness. I don't think life is about being a slave or being someone's servant or working to get just enough credits so you can survive. There is a reason some people are in Portland, and I think that reason is far more important and worth seeking out and understanding, because it's so much more than just surviving day to day. Portland-based alternative media network. Let's face it, there's a lot of independent thinkers in the Portland area and surrounding area. Why does Portland, Oregon not have its own media network where the talents, where the knowledge, where the wisdom from its occupants, from its citizens are actually shown in a TV network? Really, is that the best we can do? ABC, KOIN 6, CBS News, Fox 12, literally going from crime story to crime story, the weather, and every now and then, Good Day Oregon will highlight a local business that's selling like cupcakes, and tutus, and a bubble gum, taffy. I don't know. I don't watch Good Day Oregon anymore, but there is more to local reporting, and I think we need to show that. Invest in local publishing. Portland is a reading town. Why should PALS, even though it's an independent company, why should PALS have the monopoly? Why isn't there more effort on the part of the local government to help the next generation as we go into the technological age? The arts, in particular the art of writing, should not be forgotten. And Portland is a reading town. Like I said, there's also a lot of writers that live in the Portland area. So these are things that I think that are community oriented, the people of Portland would benefit from, even if they don't have very much money. So if there's some sort of a local currency, credit system, ways people can get involved, I think that we can curb a lot of drug addiction, heroin addiction, cocaine addiction, meth addiction, alcoholism, even chain smoking. Even chain smoking cigarettes, absolutely. Even chain smoking pot, and becoming just another person that lives life watching others live life. And going, look at them have fun, look at them having money, look at them in control. Well, why don't we get involved in doing things? One of the things that I have learned since this experience being home free or homeless is that there's a lot of people that are strictly focused on their own survival, and a lot of these home free people could be working together to create this type of a world. And so I think as things unravel more and more, whether it be our civil liberties or the economy, and as more people become home free, homeless, living out of their vehicles, more people are going to be forced to look towards certain solutions. And of course there's issues with police, military, things I haven't even gotten in depth. Investigate speed camera contracts. A lot of the money for not only the speed camera tickets, but also the tickets downtown, the parking meters, those all go to private companies. Some of them are based in Canada. Some of them are based out of state. So these are things that need to be investigated, and these are things that the Portland Mercury, the Willamette Week rather, has written about in the past. A lot of things relating to law enforcement and accountability. And as I've talked about many times in the past, Portland was a city where they had a major military drill called Top Off 4, and that took place in the year 2007. The people that are running Portland, at least the city council and the mayor, even though they represent the real financial power interests that run Portland, they are okay with Homeland Security controlling the city of Portland in the event of a disaster, even if that event may be manufactured by the federal government or some other various alphabet agency. That's pretty freaky. That's pretty freaky to see major drills like Top Off 4 come to Portland to be followed up by black helicopters swarming the city. So there needs to be some sort of a movement from within City Hall that's strong, that has support by the people to curtail the power of the federal government and the FBI and other alphabet agencies that have their interests in the Portland area for whatever reason. Whether that reason is clear or not, some things you don't give up. Some things you don't just start doing. And working with Homeland Security, inviting them into your emergency response center so that they can see, all the detailed information and where the resources are. That's not the brightest thing. That's exactly what Portland's done. So I would bring that up as an issue. Moving along, and I mentioned earlier, a radical shift in land use rights. So we want to protect those that are advocates of private property, but we also want to use land if it's just sitting dormant for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. We've got to make use out of certain things. No chemtrails. No geoengineering. What in the hell were they spraying? Literally, why is there even a blackout in awareness in the Portland area that every now and then, especially recently, on a sunny day, the skyline comes under assault? And you can clearly see that there is something going on. And there are videos that people can find now where they are admitting that geoengineering is being looked at as a potential solution to what they believe is driving what they call climate change. It's happening now. They have totally tried to legitimize the use of chemtrails, contrails, geoengineering, whatever term you like to use. It's happening, and it's happening now. Unfortunately, anybody that goes into that area is going to be labeled a conspiracy theorist. The good news is today there's more documentation that's not a theory, it's a fact. Free Republic of Portland, Cascadia. These are certain themes that have been running through Portland for years, and I think, and this is a great place to close, as things get worse, as things get more challenging, whether someone's concerned about peak oil, a solar flare hitting the country, America being invaded by China or Russia, some other disaster, magnetic field fluctuations, pole flip, asteroids hitting the Earth, lions, tigers, and bears. Whatever the concern, the people of Portland, for the most part, are very independent in their thinking. A lot of people have moved here because, into this area. We're in Washington now, but the general Portland area is because they've had it with the rest of, wherever they came from. And while a lot of the people that came here have a whole lot more to learn about what it's really like to be green friendly, not be a poser, but actually be friendly to the earth and not just be another invader. I think that in time, the people of Portland, in some of these disasters that can be coming, are going to be experiencing a reality where they have to tap into their inner potential. And they have to manifest some of these things as a community without the dollar system, without food stamps, without unemployment benefits, without the resources from their jobs. These are things that people should be thinking about everywhere, not just in the United States, certainly not just in Portland, but in the world, because really this path that we're on, the spiritual one, is also a path of greater independence, less dependence on the system. So these are all different things that we need to look at in our own community. And of course, no third bridge. I don't know if they're still going to build a third bridge, but for a certain amount of time they were talking about building a third bridge between Washington and Portland. And there was a lot of concern that that would really create a major problem. It would be a major cost. If there's so many people that are using a few bridges, I don't think it's necessarily wiser just adding more and more and more bridges at the cost of the taxpayer at a time our economy isn't all that stable. And one final thing that I'll add, in addition to this, that is on this Portland Mercury from August 2011, is a grain silo. There needs to be something more than a food bank, but an actual citywide or city-based grain silo, in addition to the large area that could be designated for a garden that the people of Portland have access to. A real community garden that doesn't have giant locks on it, but is a garden that is large, at least, or larger than the size of the zoo in Washington Park, that area right outside downtown. So that size or larger, a garden that anybody can access at any time. Of course, in addition to areas that are drug-free tent cities, where people can just live free amongst people that are on the same level. At the same time, there should also be work-free drug zones. And I scribbled that down too. And what a work-free drug zone is obviously just that. There are certain people that came to Portland to live a certain lifestyle, and that does include oblivion and abuse and addiction. Certainly of oneself. Sometimes people abuse others. While we don't support people abusing others, I do support the idea that people have the right to put in whatever they want to put in their body. But I don't necessarily want to be around those people, and neither do some of you. So some of those people don't necessarily want to have to be around us. We should create special places, kind of like A Camp for Society. That's Rainbow Family Gathering for terminology for the A Camp group. Those that tend to get in fights and drink and do certain drugs. Don't criminalize it. Put it in a certain area or a certain building where it's just anything goes. just create a special zone for that instead of just try to criminalize it and put people into the system. That's all for me. Maybe these ideas will refine as time goes on, but I just kind of wanted to get those things out there in the public eye for people's consideration. Thank you for watching.